Broadcasting from the Woodpecker Studio in the great state of New Hampshire, welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Here are your hosts, Mike and Stomp.
I'm rolling. You rolling?
Oh yeah. Good times are rolling.
With no guests in the Woodpecker Studio, you letting the executive producer and the assistant executive producer join us?
It's only the assistant, and I put this later in the show notes, but I think I'll mention it now quick. Literally a few minutes ago, Mrs. Stomp asked me, so out of all the cats you've had in your life, which are your favorite top three? Oh my God. So I went with this cat I had named Midnight when I was a young boy. And then Aria, who just passed away, that's number 2. So that put me in a dilemma. Like, am I going to pick the assistant producer or the executive? So I went with the executive, Luna, which puts poor little Bubby down here in 4th place. She didn't make the cut. The assistant producer did not make the cut. My wife's like, I can't believe that.
I feel like you're supposed to do like what you do with your kids, where you're like, you're all my favorites.
I suppose. At the moment, though,
yeah.
She's got some work to do to earn the pole position. So,
all right, we're all pulling for the assistant executive producer. So,
right.
Anyway, but we're gonna do an animal segment. Well, not an animal segment. I think we have some animal stuff on the notes here, but anyway. But
yeah.
I saw it's snowing where you are,
dude.
Right now. What is it? What is this nonsense?
It's actually collecting. So what is today's date? Today is the 27th. So April 27th. It's coming down really heavy right now. But we're at a higher elevation. I guess some of our local friends are saying it's warm and it's sort of dry, but we're getting hit right now. It's crazy. This is late for us, I think. Compared to other years.
Yeah, snow should be over. Hey, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What is going on with you? So, for the listeners, Stomp has some sort of I don't know if it's a cloak or if it's do you have like a binky? Do you have a wrap?
Yeah, this is my heat blanket here. It's called, we call it a Precious, but it's like a plush black blanket with felt on the inside, and I'm in the basement essentially, so I'm freezing to death down here. It takes a while for the heat to catch up. So I have my sweaty white t-shirt on with like old spaghetti stains and and this like Gandalf cloak. Yes, that's me.
Yeah, it's very weird. Like at first I thought you were like, when those on Zoom calls when you can put the fake background on, but then things appear. Like that's sort of what it looked like for a minute. But anyway, all right, mystery solved.
Very informal tonight.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but all right. So we got a few topics before we get to the show opener. So I am so excited. Remember how we talked about the what are those things called? The wing suits, the squirrel suits?
Yeah. I think they're just wingsuits.
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
Decided that there's not enough. So we talked to Martin about it, and we figured there's not enough distance jump. So yeah. I was hiking, and we'll talk about this later. We're going to do like a deeper dive on Mount Adams. But I was hiking down Valley Way, and I was like down past the hut, and I was like sort of past the. In Valley Way, there's like the annoying like slanted section where you can like constantly feel like you're going to fall into the ravine or whatever. So I made it past that section, and then this guy came. I didn't see anybody. Like I saw like 2 people, but I saw this guy, and he's got this like giant backpack, and I was like, I didn't know what to think. I thought I was like, all right, Stomp has a really big backpack, so I'm not going to judge him. And then my friend Jonathan also carries he's got like 100-liter pack that he carries. But this pack was like weird because it was like perfectly uniform, but it almost looked like, you know those memes where like they'll have the pictures of people that have the giant backpacks and they're in like a city street or whatever. Like I've seen those oversized backpack memes.
Yeah.
It was like that. It was probably 150 liters. So I was just like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, hey, how you doing? And I just moved along, and I was like, what I thought was, I thought maybe he worked for the AMC and was heading up to the hut to like drop off supplies before the season opens. I don't even know if they do that, but
I think they do. Well, by helicopter anyway. Many of the higher huts do. I've witnessed the helicopters coming from Route 16, Pinkham Notch, up to Madison Hut over and over again. When the last time I did Adams with my wife, actually. But
yeah, and I see the crew all the time. They have those like backboards, so I was like, it can't be that.
Yeah, so like the kitchen crew and whatnot will do their daily runs and whatnot. But I think in general the primary provisions are brought up early in the spring.
Yeah, and I did see like there was an older couple, and I honestly didn't even notice if they were wearing backpacks. Like they weren't like when I left Madison Hut and headed down, like they were walking through that little like opening there right as I was leaving the hut. They were coming in, and I was like, well, maybe they didn't have gear, and this is a guy that's with them that's bringing their gear. So I didn't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I forgot about that guy, and I'm moving along, and then make it down another mile or so, and then I see these two other guys, and they have these giant backpacks. Same thing, but they're not like backpacks. Like there's no brand on them. They're just these big, like nylon looking packs. So I was like, all right, I'm investigating. So I was like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, hey, how you doing? You know how you do that on trail.
Yeah.
You do. What do you say to people when you see them on trail? I'm always like, hey, how you doing?
Oh yeah, super brief. Yeah, I'm moving on. I hate people. I'm moving on. That's what I say.
Yeah,
I hate
so
you. Leave me alone.
Normally I'm like that, but I needed to investigate this. So I was like, are you guys doing an overnight? I'm like, what's with those giant packs? And one of the guys keeps walking. He's like, I don't want anything to do with this guy. And I get that. And then this other guy was like, oh, we're paragliding. So I was like, immediately, I'm like, I got to book these guys on the show. So
really?
I was like, yeah, it was like paragliding. So I'm like looking at him, like, how does that work? And he's like, yeah, these are our paragliders here. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Meanwhile, having no clue what the hell that means. I'm like, there's a parachute in there somehow. But I was like, hey, you know, I said, I host a podcast. Would you be willing to come on the podcast to talk about paragliding? Like, I asked him, where are you going to jump from?
Yeah.
And he's like, we don't know. We'll figure it out when we get up there.
So you dropped the "I have a podcast" line again, huh? That's the second time you've done that.
Which is so douchey. I'm such a douche. But I'm still waiting for someone to be like, "Hey, I know you from the pod," but so douchey. But I was like, "Hey, this is gonna sound weird," but me and my co-host were just talking about like guys in wingsuits, and we were like, "We know we can't do that," but we didn't talk about paragliding. And I was like, "Would you come on the show?" And he's like, yeah. So he gave me his information, and I'm going to reach out to him or whatever. But I don't know if he gave me his information because he was like, this guy's a serial killer and he wants to get the hell away, or if he's really down for it. But I got his info. I'm not going to share it here because I want to reach out to him. But I also found the pictures of them. So it looks like what they did is they went up to like the what is that? The Great Gulf, like that connecting trail from Airline to Great Gulf. I think they went on. Oh, King. Yeah, I think they went on the
King Ravine side.
No, wait a minute. What the hell is the name of the trail? Gulf Side Trail.
Oh,
so
okay.
They were on the Gulf Side Airline, that area there, right above King Ravine, and I think that's where they took off from. And I looked at the pictures on social media, and they were like out on the road. They were like out above like 302 and on the road there, and they said they got up to like 5,600 feet of elevation.
Interesting. So they were just taking the air currents and
I guess so. They didn't have like the fans on them, but they had the parachutes.
Yeah.
And then they must have like, and there was no wind really.
That's interesting. I wonder how they got it started.
I don't know. They must have ran or something, but I mean, there was a little bit of wind, but not much.
So it wasn't it wasn't like the squirrel wingsuit. It was like a paraglider.
No,
more like
it's a paraglider. Yeah, those like parachutes that like.
Yeah, I wonder how they got it going.
Like long and wide. I don't know.
Wow.
But and then it looks like the backpacks that they carried are like these nylon like cockpits that they sit in.
Huh. Oh,
so they must have to run to get it going. And then once they fill it with air, they must, I guess, have some way to like, they hop inside that little like nylon thingy and then they pull up and somehow they catch eardrops or something. I don't know, but it was pretty cool.
Wow.
I didn't see them. I was in Valley Way, but I like kept looking up when I got back. But they wouldn't have made it to take off until I left.
Did you pick their brain about where they were going to land?
No. I asked him, I was like, where are you taking off from? And he's like, we don't know. We'll figure it out. So I'm like, he doesn't know where he's going to take off from. He's not going to know where he's going to land. I mean, maybe the parking lot.
There must be some field down there that they had scoped out because it would be illegal, like if you were landing on the highway.
I'm assuming, well, I don't know. Can they land on that tract of land where the snowmobiles are? Or is that, there's like power lines there, though?
Yeah, there are.
Be careful.
Yep. Power lines there. That the railroad bed. That wouldn't be a good choice. Appalachia's packed with cars. It's pretty small. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah,
we need Tom Becker. Tom Becker is the man for this conversation. We'll get him on.
We got to get him on.
Yeah.
But so I'm going to reach out to them this week, and then if I can, I don't want to like, I don't even know like what the rules are for doing all this stuff, so I don't want to like publicize too much details in case it's like they don't want their names out there, but I'm going to reach out to them to see, and then I'll post some pictures, but it was like amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm just pissed because I sort of thought about it. I was like, maybe I'll turn around for the podcast just to like see them take off and whatever. But then I was like, no, they don't want to deal with me. And I was like 2 miles down Valley Way and I just wanted to get home. So I didn't see anything, but I did see the pictures. So anyway, there are paragliders in the whites.
Yeah. Who knew? And I think I have to qualify my previous statement about how I hate people on the trail that talk to me. That's not true. That's really not true. I do tend to avoid people, but if you're a listener and you want to come over and say hi, you recognize me or Mike, go for it. We're not assholes like that. Give me a break. But in general, I do avoid conversation. I just like to plug along and go.
I'm more likely to strike up a conversation with a guy than a girl, I think, just because I've always read online, and I've definitely heard it from some friends, like don't bother like women on trail, because I get it. I mean, if I looked at me, I'd be like, this guy's up to no good. I mean, Mindy and Bethlehem have told that story, but most of the time I'm just my move is just like, hi, how you doing? And I'll say something about like, awesome day, amazing weather here, or can you believe there's no wind? That was my move.
Hey,
that was my move.
Safe trails
last week.
Have a safe hike.
Exactly. Well, speaking of safe, not being safe, you have so actually a listener, Chris Mashburn, sent this over, but
Marshburn,
a woman rescued from a privy. So explain this.
Beautiful. Well, apparently this is somebody that dropped her phone into the I guess they call it the vault of the privy, where all the feces and urine would be. And she disassembled the toilet seat and used her dog leashes to try to retrieve the phone. And eventually she tried to tie herself off too, as she like strained and reached into this porta potty. And unfortunately she fell in head first and had to be rescued by search and rescue. So she called 911 and the fire department and fire rescue responded. This is worth talking at the top because this is hilarious. It's like, who does that?
What a nightmare.
Can you imagine?
I do think about that. Like, not so much a privy, but I always think about when I go into a porta potty, I'm always like on high alert to make sure that I don't drop my phone in that like blue liquid of nastiness.
Yeah. Oh, it's so nasty. But on a positive note, there's this brand new app that New York is using that I thought I might mention. I don't know if anything like this exists here, but Warren County in New York is using this brand new app. And what you can do is just list the trail name, observation, where you saw it, the date, the time, mile marker, things like that, if you see problems on trails. And then I'm not sure who responds to this, but trail stewards apparently go out and fix it up. So isn't that cool? It's an app.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So We have something similar in our town, which is called like Click It Ticket.
Uh-huh.
And it's like you can say like, okay, there's like a pothole that you need to fix. So this is like the same deal.
I suppose so. I don't know if anything like this exists up in the Whites, but this might be some adventure for AMC or the Forest Service to look into. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're a listener and you know about this, let us know and we can follow up because it's pretty cool. Cool idea.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So you can just attach a photo, you just put the location and all that fun stuff. So
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, super cool.
All right. One thing I put here in the notes, Stomp, Backpacker Magazine put out an article asking hikers to confess their leave no trace violations or admit your worst outdoor sins.
Yeah.
So they get a couple of examples here. Like one guy dropped a case of beer into a creek, and when they woke up, they put all the empties on the creek bed, and then it rained, and then all the beer cans like washed away down the river, and they were like, we couldn't find them, so we basically dumped a 12-pack of empty cans in the wilderness. Another person like let their dog off leash and it attacked a deer. Some other guy poured like his white gas into the Grand Canyon. That's a dick move.
Oh, these are funny.
Somebody killed a skunk.
How do you do that? With like a gun maybe or something? Or
I don't know. I'll link the article here. So I don't know what's going on. And then I pooped on the trail. Like yeah, pooping on the trail. But I don't know why the hell you would ever poop on the trail. And then the last one is...
Well, hold on a minute.
Oh, go ahead.
This is important because the picture shows somebody sort of off trail in the woods. So did they mean literally on the trail or next to the trail? And that being said, I do have a comment about that. Like, come on, people. Bury your stuff. Dig this 6 inches and bury it. I'm just finding so much refuse and feces everywhere. It's just gross. Come on.
Stomp. I have a confession.
Is this a rendition of you on this article?
Well, no. I understand the whole like don't poop on the trail, but and this I'll just give you a hypothetical. Mm-hmm. So suppose you're a trail runner and you decide that you're going to hike out to Bond Cliff and bang out the first 6 miles. You're going to trail run, and then you're going to power hike up to Bond Cliff.
Yeah.
And you might have had a large Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee on before you got out there, and then you get to Bond Cliff, you're by yourself, and then all of a sudden you get these insane stomach cramps on the way from
emergent.
Bond Cliff to Mount Bond.
Yeah.
And you have like no options on where to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So
it
becomes difficult.
Thank you. So what's your penance, actually, according to this article?
I don't know what your penance is. I'm sorry.
Your penance. Trail dumps are a pretty big no-no, so we prescribe a volunteer day at your local trail. There you go. Sign up, reflect on how much you appreciate a sweet-smelling footpath, and relieve yourself responsibly from here on out, Michael.
All right. I'll do my best. Do you know, I have a friend of mine he's a good friend of mine from high school. And him and his wife, like when they were dating, I think they were hiking out. Oh God, I hope he doesn't listen to this. I'm sorry. When they were dating, they were like, they're not hikers. They're not outdoorsy, but
this is funny. This reminds me of something.
They were hiking out to, it was either Ripley Falls or Arethusa. I don't know which one, but they like carved their names into a tree, like their initials, whatever plus whatever. And they go back like every year or every once in a while to like go look at the tree or whatever, and then they'll post it on social media. And I'm always like, I want to tell my buddy, like, dude, take that down. Some leave no trace person is going to go after you.
That's too funny. Yeah.
So anyway.
Just talking about that. For my sins, people know I love to camp above tree line, but I also have made like several probably illegal fire pits, so please forgive me. Father, son, House of Gucci. That's my big flaw, so sorry.
Editing note, use the shame drop right there.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, I'll put that article in the show notes, and then maybe that'll be a good Instagram story for you, Stomp.
Yeah.
Confess your sins.
And this leads right into this next little story about you outing your friend, because we're watching the Johnny Depp trial. We're addicted, dude. If you love like the whole reality show type of thing, I think this is the penultimate experience. We're on day 9. We're watching this like as much as we can. It's been fascinating. I'm sure the rest of the world is too, but have you seen any of the trial with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard? It's crazy.
I have not.
It's really crazy.
I have not.
It's a simple defamation suit, but they're destroying each other on the stand with witnesses and this and that. They're absolutely these two people are just crazy. And I'm surprised Johnny Depp's still alive with all the drugs he's taken. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think substance abuse for sure with Johnny Depp. My understanding is that the ex-wife, what's her name, Amber Heard?
Yeah.
And I got listeners, everybody should do a little bit of research, particularly on personality disorders, particularly cluster B personality disorders, because I think the most common one is narcissism, but my understanding is that Amber Heard has histrionic and borderline personality. So the histrionic is really like excessive attention seeking to the detriment of your own sort of like you can't control it.
Yeah.
And you do see this a lot on like acting out on social media. Borderline personality and narcissism, typically that is, you're looking for other humans to provide you with fuel for your, whatever crazy sort of, I guess adoration or, feedback that you get from them. Your view, it's typically positive, but most of the time it's toxic. So I think that's what I picked up on Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's trial, but I haven't watched much of it. But it's fascinating to see these people. Most of the time they're dysfunctional, and the interesting thing about this case is that you've got people with resources that have these personality disorders.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. It sounds like they're talking about everybody in Hollywood at this point, to be honest with you. But since you mentioned that, check out Day 9, because there's a psychologist that's bulletproof, absolutely bulletproof, and Amber Heard's attorneys cannot make a dent, and she was brilliant talking about borderline and the histrionic aspects. It's fascinating. Anyway, it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I'm sort of embarrassed to admit this, but like the reason why I'm not focusing on Johnny Depp and in his whole situation is that like I have my attention at this point is mostly focused on Alec Baldwin and Hilaria Baldwin's situation. So I only have time for so much, and that one is like
that's messed up too.
He's nuts and she's insane, and like if you want to go down a rabbit hole with fake pregnancies and fake bounce backs and surrogates that are being used secretly, and Alec Baldwin, and there's all kinds of substance abuse issues going on there, and he killed a lady. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely not hiking related, but SLASR has the finger on the pulse, people, right? Am I right?
We do. We do like the pop culture stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, getting our psychology hats off and moving on to not getting killed by wild animals, Stomp.
A quick follow-up. Yeah, we talked about what happens when you accidentally cross paths with an animal, but we don't really need to talk about these because they don't translate well for audio, but we'll provide you links of people that are approaching moose and getting stomped by them, or walking up to bison and getting chased and stomped by them. So it's fun stuff. We'll add the links and you can check them out, but people, it's best not to bother the wildlife if you have half a cell in your brain. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't had much interaction with wild animals on the trail. I did see a moose last year, but I don't get these people that immediately want to go up close to animals.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's just ignorance. They think it's a cat or something. Although that could be dangerous as well, I suppose.
Definitely.
So yeah. Anyway, we'll add the links. And hey, dude, I just watched. This is worth mentioning. I watched Infinite Storm in the comfort of the Woodpecker studio here, and it was sort of cool because my wife hadn't seen it, and I wanted to see it again. So we put it on the computer monitor, and I had the studio quality monitors that I use for the recording and stuff like that, blasting this movie. It was like we were sitting in the theater with a smaller screen, obviously, but I gotta say, the second time through that movie, I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed it. It was very emotional, and my wife enjoyed it. What a weird experience, because the first time I think I went into it like maybe just a little too pre-biased, but the second time was just a great experience. So anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out this week. And my wife is, we just got back from my wife's traveling again. So she's got like a girls' weekend, so I'm going to be solo. So I'm going to watch it probably on like Friday night or something.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. So anyway, back to cats, I guess, right?
Yeah, so we had, I think you would put a note in that you took off, but like we were going to talk about one thing that I saw an article about a cat that is going to be hiking the Adirondacks. So this cat, usually they don't get press until after they do shit.
Yeah.
This cat's getting like press before it even does anything. So
why?
I guess the owner has a plan to like hike all the 46 4,000 footers in the Adirondacks.
Huh. It's not the same people that did the New Hampshire 48, right?
I don't think so.
Ah.
I don't think so. Yeah.
You've started a trend.
Yeah. And I don't get that. I don't understand. Matter of fact, we gotta get Mel and Flocky on here, but like I don't understand. Like I think the cats get carried, so it's not so much like them
hiking.
They don't get credit for hiking. They just get credit for not being assholes like normal cats. This cat's a good-looking cat, though. It's like a different-looking cat. It's like hairy. I don't know.
So
do you know what kind of cat it is?
Fake news. Unfortunately, let me just see if I can pull up the picture here quickly, but I do not know what the cat looks like. Here I go. It's loading.
Yeah, it takes a minute.
What the heck? See, I have my... No, it's not loading. Sorry, people. Oh, yeah. It's like video. Go ahead. You keep on talking. It's coming.
Yeah, it's like a... I don't know what these cats are called. It's like a Taylor... I call it a Taylor Swift cat. It's like got the pushed-in face. Like Taylor Swift had those cats.
Ooh, right,
and they were like
they look
fancy-looking
like
cats. Yeah, exactly. But it looks pretty cool. So anyway, it's I guess she says that the cat's been on like at least 100 hikes. So, but it's got its eyes set on the Adirondack 46ers. So,
wow,
look out, New York.
That is great.
But it made me think of like I was trying to think, Stomp, if you could think of like famous animals that hike. Maybe not dogs, but like other animals. Like I know, like Mel and Flocky, like because is it Floki or Flocky? I don't even know how you pronounce it.
If she's referring to like the Viking lore, it's Floki. He was a legendary character in the Viking times.
Yeah, and I know my friend on Facebook, Bree, she hikes with her son, and they take a rabbit, and I think the rabbit's name is Bunny, which is pretty original, but I know that they're chipping away at the 4,000 footers with Bunny.
Yeah.
And then I've talked about Oscar the Basset Hound.
Yeah. And
then we've also talked about Atticus of the Following Atticus book fame, and then there's a ton of like pretty well-known dogs. Like what dogs are like I know like I met Mecca is a dog that passed away a year or two ago. I met Mecca on trail, and then I don't know, there's a bunch of other famous dogs, I think.
I think it would be Timmy and Lassie, right? That's another famous one.
yeah Timmy and Lassie, may they rest in peace.
Right, that's my go-to, Timmy and Lassie.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But, so anyway, if there's any other famous animals that are not dogs, let us know, and we'll give them a shout out.
Atticus is a good one, though. I haven't seen anything from that author. Is he still writing?
I don't know if he's writing. I don't think he's in this area anymore. I think that he may be somewhere else. I don't know where.
Yeah, last I knew, he was in the Jackson area, New Hampshire, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, so you ready for the show opener?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, no, do we do coffee and sponsor first?
Sure, sounds good.
Or do we do the show opener?
We have... one donation on the coffee platform. It's from Sarah without an H, and she donated 3 coffees. So thank you very much, Sarah. And I'll just improv this. Thank you so much, Reckless Brewing, for sponsoring us. And I was just peeking at one of their posts. Somebody had posted, or maybe it was one of our SLASR posts, but they had posted, hey, basically I went to Reckless, it was fantastic, thanks for the recommendation, all that stuff. So I'm glad that people are plugging the podcast and making yourselves heard at Reckless, because they're great, and we appreciate the support too. So right on.
Awesome. All right. So welcome to episode 56 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. So tonight we are going to visit Mount Adams and King Ravine, Castle Ravine. We're going to talk all about the RMC, and we'll start off with covering a recent hike that I did via Airline, and then we're going to do a deep dive on all the trails and options for hiking in and around Mount Adams this summer, get into a little bit of history there, and then later in the show, Stomp is going to give us his advice on how to survive bug season in the whites. Yep. So all this and recent search and rescues are coming up. So this was a busy week for rescuers, so we'll break down all the details. I'm Mike.
And I'm Stomp. Let's get started.
Let's get it started. All right. So recent hike, Stomp, you go first. You were doing something good with Mrs. Stomp, I think.
Yeah. We tried several times to get the timber camp together, and finally made it this weekend. This past Sunday, it was cloudy, but then by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, it broke, and it was just amazing. Timber camp is that little spur that is along the Greeley Ponds Trail from Livermore Trailhead south, yes, from Waterville Valley. So we started in there. It's a fairly modest hike. It's maybe 2.5 miles to get to this spur, up a couple thousand feet, and you get this view of what they call K1, K2, which is like a half dome that is very rare and unusual for this area. It's just an amazing thing, and it's almost like it's painted. Yeah, I think that the rock structure would be iron, just based upon the colorings of the rock. And then from there, you can also see the cliffs of Greeley Ponds Notch, or what they call Mad River Notch, and then you get Tri-Pyramids. So we had this beautiful time. We didn't actually make it to the camp. We just stopped at this little dirt mound that is about maybe a quarter mile. And it was just awesome. Just perfect picnic day, just chilling out. And the sun was warm, so it was really sweet.
Yeah, it's been good hearing about all these hikes around Waterville Valley, because I honestly, and I think I would say 90% of the people that hike are going to think of Livermore, that's the trailhead where you just get to, the Tri-Pyramids. And there's so much more going on there that I just didn't even realize. I had no idea. So if you were going to do a good summer hike, up to, could you do Goodridge Rock and then Timber Camp and then back?
Yes, without a doubt. Absolutely. Low mileage. I think Goodrich is maybe a mile 1.1 up to Goodrich from the spur. And then it's maybe a quarter mile past Goodrich to get to the timber camp. So those two, I'm telling you, I was joking about it with you guys when Ty was on. You get the remote feel where the hell am I? The center of Europe or something. It's so different out there. Just you're surrounded by cliffs that are very unusual for the area. It's super cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to go check it out. And then from backpacking or camping, is there a lot of options, just legal camping off trail, or do you not know?
You'd have to do legal, 200-foot off trail. That's plenty of that, obviously. Okay. I think there's a shelter at Greeley Ponds, if I remember correctly. At this particular place at Timber Camp, you could set up a couple tents at the camp itself. I don't know if there'd be any prohibition against that or not. When we were walking up, we saw people we saw the remains of fire, ashes and whatnot that people had made just recently, which is weird. One of them was right on trail. And P.S., just a side note, there's a hell of a lot of snow up there still. I couldn't believe it. I think it's the northern side of the eastern side of the Osceolas. So you're basically just south of East Osceola where you were recently.
Yeah. So
there was still at least a foot of snow that we were bare booting up to get to this overlook. So the snow's still out there. You got to be careful,
Yeah, but that's the lesson I've learned is like Livermore. It's not just for the tri-pyramids. There's a lot more going on there, which is awesome. So I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah, and also the Scour too. The Scour overlook is fantastic. I mean, you could add those 3 in and do those big pines. Super, super amped about this location. It's a great area.
Yeah, I can't wait to go check it out. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so I had mentioned in the beginning of the show, so I was able to, and I've been talking about this on the show for probably like 2-3 months, and I just haven't, if I'm going to invest the time to drive up to the Northern Presidentials, I want to make sure that I do it on a good weather day. I don't want to be like socked in and miss the views. Yeah. I'm kind of past the point of doing a hike just to check off a list. I want some views, so... Yeah. Sunday was like everything lined up perfectly, like it was going to be warm, and then it was a little overcast, but I was still like it was going to be high ceiling on the clouds, so I was like, I'll be good to go. So I just got up early. I think I left the house at like 5, stopped at Lincoln to Dunkin' Donuts to get some food and a coffee, and then got to Appalachia around like probably quarter of 8, something like that. So I got out of the trail. There was like about 10 or 15 cars there, so I was like, I'll see some people. I headed up Airline. My philosophy when it comes to Mount Adams is that unless the weather's bad, I'll take any trail up except for Valley Way, just because I think so many people just take that trail, so I'll avoid it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, so Airline. And I knew that... so my friend Jonathan had given me a heads up. He had tried to get up to Gray Knob, and the ice flows on Lowe's Path were so bad, and he was by himself that he didn't have crampons, I don't think. So he had just turned around and bailed. This was a few weeks ago. It was a little bit worse, but I knew that there was going to be ice on Airline, but I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was. But it was bad. So around 30, I bare booted up until about 3,000 feet. There was nothing, and then 3,000 feet started to see the ice, and then by the time I get up to around 3,500, it gets steep, and there was like these thick ice flows because it gets no sun on that side.
Yeah. True.
So all I had was crampons. I didn't have crampons. I had my microspike, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to stay in the trees. So I put the microspikes on, and I'll put a video. I have a video of it, so I'll put that up on the Instagram. I think I put a picture up, and I was like, I'm screwed. I need ice climbing equipment. But I made it up, and then pop up above tree line, and then it was like just not trace amounts of snow, but it was mostly just like a small amount of snow and then ice. So I kept the crampons on all the way up, but just plugged away at Airline, and then went up to Adams, and I was up there. There was like no wind.
Perfect.
So one other hiker at the junction of Airline and Gulfside, and we hiked for maybe about a quarter mile. I was talking to her. She's gritting. I don't know her name, but she's a badass hiker, and like I immediately was like, I'm not going to be able to keep up with her. So I stopped to grab a little bite to eat, and right below the summit, let her just hang out on the summit by herself. And then when she started coming down, I hit the summit. I was up there for like 20 minutes, half hour.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
It was good, yeah. And then headed down. I was like, maybe I'll do Madison. Then I was like, I want to get home. I want to get home to do some work before Monday, because I was on vacation, so I had all these work emails. So I was like, I just want to get home and do the work emails and get ready for Monday morning. So I bailed on Madison, but I went down Madison hot.
Okay.
Sat there for a little while, and then that's where I came down and ran into those guys.
Oh, cool. Okay. Hey, how was Airline? I remember when I did it last, there were sections with blowdowns that were pretty impossible. Have they cleared those up?
Yeah, they're all cleared.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple of blowdowns I had to duck under, but everything's cleared.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It's an awesome trail.
Yeah, it is. Super cool.
You like pop above tree line, and then you're like right in front of King Ravine, and it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I got to get up there again. Yeah.
Let's dive into some White Mountains history, shall we?
I wanted to just do a little bit of a deep dive, so it got me thinking. I was like, let me do some research on the Randolph Mountain Club, and let me talk a little bit about like some of the other parts of Mount Adams, because I do think that there's a ton of trails there, and there's a ton of good hikes for you to do in the summer, and if you want to go for it. So I figured I would get into some history and then talk about some of the trails.
Perfect.
So
I'm all ears.
So Mount Adams is all right. So it's the second tallest mountain in the Whites. The trail system on Adams is managed by the Randolph Mountain Club. Mm-hmm. And the Randolph Mountain Club has a long history. It's a long and complex story of perseverance, conservation, and just pure grit to get this trail system going. So, yeah. So I think we talked about this before, but the early settlers were really focused on opening up Mount Washington and then opening up Crawford Notch. So they really didn't there wasn't a lot going on in the northern presidentials. You would have thought like, okay, they made it to Mount Washington, let's keep exploring these other peaks, but there wasn't a lot of exploration going on past Mount Washington.
Which makes sense. Absolutely makes sense, trying to connect the two sides of the state via Crawford.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was the goal for these early settlers was like, let's get a pass through the mountains. Let's make sure that we've got some trails up to the biggest peak, and then we'll worry about the northern presidentials later on, which is exactly what happened. So by the 1850s, they had enough sort of established trail systems. They had enough settlement and enough tourism demand. I think by that point, they were like, thousands of people a year were going up to Mount Washington with tour guides. So they had enough interest. So by 1850, they started opening up the northern presidential. So I'm just taking this right from the RMC history page here that describes the beginning of exploration on the northern region. So by 1850, a few hardy walkers sought the peaks of Madison, Adams, and Jefferson. They engaged the services of a mountain guide, notably James Gordon of Gorham. The Reverend Thomas Starking was among the first adventurers to explore the less traveled ways. The 26-year-old preacher summered in Gorham for 10 years beginning in 1850. Together with Gordon, he ventured onto the northern peaks, writing newspaper articles about his experiences, including the 1857 ascent of the head wall of the ravine, now known as Kings.
Wow.
Around 1860, Gordon is credited with having made a path to the summit of Madison over which he guided walkers. Gordon's route was probably a string of blazes that he alone could interpret rather than an actual cleared path, and it too was nearly impassable by 1869. So,
super cool.
Once this guy Gordon cracked it open with Reverend Starking, that started them on building all of these paths. So by the late 1800s, many of these well-known paths that we travel today were built along the two great northern ravines. So there's King Ravine, named for Reverend Starking, and then there's Castle Ravine.
That's really neat.
So by this time, most of these early trail builders were either locals who lived in the area, or they were annual visitors tied to the Ravine Lodge. So there was a lodge that was in existence from 1877 to 1963 called the Ravine House. And the founder of the Ravine House was this guy named Abel Watson and his son Laban, I guess. They converted their farm and I guess it faced King Ravine on Mount Adams, and then they converted it into a summer boarding house, and they expanded it in 1884, and the Ravine House basically became the key sort of launching point for most of the people that were touring the northern presidentials from that area. So, they had up to 100 guests in the mid-1900s when it was in full effect. So they had a bowling alley, a tennis court, trout fishing, swimming pool, and they offered obviously hiking. So it was very active up until about 1960, and then I think they demolished it by 1963, unfortunately. But there is one of those green signs at the location where it was found. But that's basically that was the tourist destination, was that everyone would go to this Ravine House and then start from there. Mm-hmm. Like most of the whites in the early 1900s, so these trails were all built, and we'll talk about some of the trails, but there's the Ravine, the King Ravine Trail, Great Gully, Airline, etc., Israel Ridge, Castle Ravine. They were all built in some respects, but what happened is by the early 1900s, logging came into the northern presidentials, and it was about a 10-year period where the locals and the loggers were sort of in this struggle between keeping the paths clear, and then there was also this quest for timber. So what happened was that by 1910, I guess the AMC could only do so much, so I think they were more focused on other areas. So the Randolph Mountain Club was formed in 1910. It mostly consisted of members of the AMC, but their focus was on rebuilding all these paths that had been ravaged by the timber industry. So they couldn't get through any of these paths because of all the logging activity that was going on. Yeah. And luckily for them, the following year, the Weeks Act, which is what was passed in 1911, that created the National Forest System, and that's when the government started purchasing these large swaths of land that could, and they could protect them, and they could manage the logging, or they could actually ban logging. So that's when basically the Randolph Mountain Club was established in 1910. The Weeks Act happened in 1911, and that's when they could really get a hold of the logging, get it under control, and then just establish all the trail systems that we walk on today.
Neat.
Very cool, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's such an amazing, rugged area.
Yeah, it is. And then by the 1950s, they were able to establish a permanent trail crew, and now they maintain this extensive trail system in the northern presidentials. And if you just look at a map, it's like a spider web of trails. It's insane how many trails there are. Yeah,
that below tree line area gets a little confusing for me. Do they use some of those for cross country skiing? Because they're so numerous.
I don't know. I don't know. There's a little bit. I think that there's a little bit of too many trails that aren't needed there, I think that it was just probably a function of them reestablishing some of these trails, and they do have it makes sense when you look at it, because you got Lowe's Path that goes up to the Gray Knob Shelter. Then you've got the Spur Trail that comes up to Crag Camp. Then you've got the Great Gully that goes up on the one side of the ravine. You've got King Ravine that goes up the other. Airline that goes up the side of the ravine. So it makes sense in some ways, but the lower sections, I think they just put cutover trails across all of them. So it just looks like a spider web.
Yeah, it does.
It does. So, yeah. But the Randolph Mountain Club, they also manage, so there's 2 huts. There's Gray Knob and Crag Camp, and there's also the Log Cabin, which is a lean-to, I think, and the Perch, which is also a lean-to. And there is a fee to stay in those. If you join the Randolph Mountain Club, which you should, you get a little bit of a discount on those. But great locations to stay overnight. And I'll include the links in the show notes.
Yeah, you're a big fan of those huts. You and Chaga. I've not spent time in those huts over there, but they sound really great. And you swear by them. You do your winter adventure every year, don't you?
Yeah, I love them. Yeah. I love them. So there's two huts. There is there's Grey Knob, which is a staffed hut where the caretakers there in the winter, they run a stove, but it's not really a stove to like warm things up. It's just to keep the moisture under control so that you don't get like all, icicles and stuff inside. And it's really like, it's got a Lord of the Rings type of vibe to it. It's like really great. Like, we'll pass around like shots of bourbon, and then, usually there's like a pretty good crowd. And then it's just, all it is just sleeping upstairs on like mats.
Right.
And then
super cool.
Then you just move along. And then Crag Camp is not heated. So if you go in the winter, like it's cold, but they have like a cooking board, and you can you warm up your food and hang out. And there's all there's all kinds of games and books and stuff like that to keep you busy up there. It's awesome.
That's awesome. That reminds me.
You can play cards, you can play checkers, chess, whatever you want.
What's a cooking board?
It's just like a stove, but it's just like, instead of the stove, they just have a board where you can just cook on you can fire up your stove and just cook.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. This reminded me of when I smoked out Carter Notch Hut with my synthetic gloves by putting my gloves, when I was a newbie hiker, I put my gloves on the wood stove and I smoked the place out.
Yeah, don't do that. That's you should have confessed that as your sin.
Yeah. Oh my God, it happened instantaneously. My wife's like, "What the hell are you doing?" Oh God, good stuff.
Shame. Put another shame, bro. But before we close this out and we get into bugs, the last thing I will say is that just the trails. I'm highlighting from east to west the trails that go. There's some trails that will go like along the mountain, but I'm just highlighting the trails that go up the mountain. All right. So I just talked about Airline, so I'm not going to talk about the Valleyway and the other trails that hit Madison. We'll do that on a separate show, but like the trails that go along King Ravine and Castle Ravine. So you got Airline, which comes out on the eastern side of King Ravine, I guess.
Yeah.
Then you've got the King Ravine Trail. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah. Yep.
King Ravine Trail. And this is on the Airline's on the Terrifying 25. King Ravine is on the Terrifying 25. And so the King Ravine takes you up to the head wall of King Ravine, which is like this really steep, awesome hike. But before you get there, there's like this is a boulder field at the bottom of the ravine, and you can kind of go through these different boulders. And there's a section called the Subway, which has all these caves and stuff. It's really cool. Mm-hmm. King Ravine it's got amazing views, and it's like pretty challenging. It's not super bad. It's not super difficult, but it's challenging. Like they've got some sketchy sections. And
no question.
Yeah. And then there's on the western side of the ravine wall. So there's two ways to go up the head wall. There's the King Ravine Trail, and then there's the Great Gully Trail. So King Ravine, I would say, is open.
Well, that's
sort of an open.
There's that third French one, Chemin de whatever.
Yeah, that's a cutover trail, so I didn't count that one.
Okay,
that
gotcha.
just connects Airline to King Ravine. But Chemin des Dames, I think it's called. But the Great Gully Trail is a little bit different, where it is more of a like a enclosed trail. It's not as open as King Ravine. So they both go up the head wall, but like I feel like the Great Gully is more of there's more scrub and stuff on either side of you, so you feel like you're on a trail. It's more like Madison Gulf. It's like you feel like you're on a trail instead of like King Ravine and the Great Gulf Trail. You're like, you're wide open. And Huntington, you're like wide open. There's no trees or scrub near.
Yeah, except for the winter. I mean, that's totally covered in it, and it's a very popular ski route. Alfaro and I went specifically to see if we could get up that trail late winter, and when we got there, we were like, no thanks.
Immediately no.
Yes. Nope.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So just heading on to Castle Ravine, there's one trail. So Lowe's Path will take you up to, so that is a trail that goes up the mountain. That's sort of in between the two ravines. So that will take you up to Grey Knob, and then you can also ascend to, I think it's Adams 5 or something like that, and then go over to the peak if you want. Then as you get over to I guess it's like the western part or whatever. I don't know, directionally, I'm sure I'm going to get corrected on this, but you get into Castle Ravine. Castle Ravine is less traveled, And I've been on 2 of these trails. So there's Israel Ridge, which I've done with my crew from Amesbury in the winter. Awesome trail in the winter. I can't really speak to it in the summer, but that Israel Ridge, that will take you up to sort of the perch in that area there. Then you've got the Castle Ravine Trail, which I think breaks away from Israel Ridge and goes up the head wall of Castle Ravine. And then on the other side, where you can either get to Adams or Jefferson, is the Castle Trail, which is probably I personally think it's one of the coolest trails in the Whites. It's got these 3 spires, which I think are called castles by some people, but great trail. And that's also on the Terrifying 25. So
cool.
And if you want to do a hike that sort of touches on this whole area, my recommendation would be if you park on I forget what it's called. There's a flat trail that it's like a walking path before Lowe's. I forget what that's called. I'll put it in the show notes. But if you park there, that's basically where the Castle Trail ends. And then you start there, and then you walk along the snowmobile path to Lowe's Path, and then cut over to King Ravine, go up King Ravine, take the Gulf side, and then go over to Jefferson, and then down the Castle Trail. That will give you a feel for both of these ravines, and it's like a 15-mile hike. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. Awesome hike.
Yeah. And don't forget your parasail or your paraglider pack.
That's the fast way down.
Yes. Oh, boy.
So anyway. All right. So anything else on Mount Adams? Stomp, you learn anything new?
Oh, learn anything new? Well, just about the hut system and the trails and the history. That's fantastic stuff. Thank you for doing all that research. One of these days, you'll drag me out to that freezing gray knob or one of those things.
Yes. We can share a sleeping bag. It'll be fun. For one of us, anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that was segment 1. Segment 2, Stomp, you're on the hook to teach us how to deal with bugs.
SLASR's hiking topic of the week.
It's that time of year. The bugs are coming out, and I sort of dread it. From what I hear, I think the ticks have been out for 2 or 3 weeks now. Is that correct? I've heard dog stories. They're just all over the dogs already. My wife told me that her friend's dog had a bunch on him the other day. But I thought it might be fun to talk about some of the bugs, but more so to talk about the preventative measures. So I'll just zip through a few of the things that we can expect to see over the next several weeks here. Obviously, ticks, they're out early to late shoulder seasons throughout the summer and into the fall, and they're known most for Lyme disease, which is pretty nasty. Gnats or no-see-ums are these little teeny-weeny winged insects, which essentially come out from mid-May to late June, and if there's a rainy spring or a really wet winter, you can expect them to be much worse. Everybody's favorite, mosquitoes. I love mosquitoes. They're so fun. They can give you some nice Zika or some West Nile virus if you're not careful. Looking into these bugs, man, check this out. This is really interesting. Some come out of hibernation while others die. So some lay eggs in the fall, but some actually go into hibernation. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I know that you're not, especially with mosquitoes, you're not supposed to leave water around because the babies just sit in the water and then emerge as badass mosquitoes. So I didn't know they hibernate.
That's crazy. So some of them do. According to some of the research, 50 degrees seems to be the turn on and turn off point when these will activate and then die off. And we all know that by the first frost, that's typically the end of the season. But you're looking at a significant change in their activity when it's about 50-ish degrees. So right now we're hitting 50s and 60s up here in Thornton. So So I have not seen a mosquito yet, but they're coming. Generally it's early May for the White Mountain region. And when you're hiking, you're going to see mosquitoes heavily in wet areas, bogs, lakes, ponds, that type of thing, or just wet trails in general. So spiders, I added this. I know none of us really come across spiders too often unless you're looking for them or you're bushwhacking, but I thought it's sort of interesting. There are 39 species in New Hampshire, and 3 of them are poisonous. Apparently there are black widows, brown recluses, and broad-faced sack spiders in the state. I think you'll find a spider if you're intentionally putting your hand under a log or reaching between boulders or something like that. So if you're going to do that type of thing, you might want to put on some gloves, some gauntlet gloves or whatever. Go ahead.
I feel like spiders are most dangerous when you're sleeping.
Oh, like backpacking?
Or anywhere, even in your own bed. One time I had I had this growth on my head.
Oh, it bit you?
On my forehead. And so it's sort of become legend in my house is I got this bump on my forehead and I was like, this is something serious. I need to go to the doctors. And my wife was like, you have a zit. And I was like, no, I think that it's a spider bite, and I think that the spiders laid eggs inside of my forehead and that the eggs are growing in there, and then they're going to come out, and I'm going to birth spiders from this goiter that was on my forehead. So my wife was just like, no, you're an idiot. It's a zit. So then I went to So I was like, no, I think I have a spider bite and it's laid its larva inside of me or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Or I was alien. And I was convinced with it. So I immediately went to the emergency room. I went to my doctor. And my wife was just like, you're such an idiot. You're paranoid. So I get to the doctor's and he's like, yeah, it's probably just a little bit of oil buildup. And I was like, you sure it can't be a spider that bit me and laid its eggs? And he's like, no, it's just an oil buildup. So then I had to go home and tell my wife, I was like, it's not a zit, it's an oil buildup. And she's just like, you're an idiot.
Oh, man. Did she pop it for you? A sign of true love.
I don't know. No, she didn't pop it. She probably would now. She's into those pimple popper videos. But that story comes up at least once every 6 months. That story comes up at dinner.
Wow. Maybe you got bit by the official New Hampshire state spider. Did you know that New Hampshire had a state spider?
I had no idea. What is it?
Apparently back in 2021, Governor Sununu, he's got nothing better to do than to find out what the state spider is. He named a spider as the state spider, and the name of the spider is called a daring jumping spider, which is probably your type of spider, man. You love daring jumping spiders, especially when you're sleeping. Yeah. And this thing is nasty.
As long as it doesn't lay an egg in my head.
Yeah, right. It looks like Lord of the Rings, like Shelob, black with these orange dots on the rear of the body, furry black legs, nasty, right? So anyway, they're here, people. So if you're going to go digging in holes and stuff, put some gloves on or you might end up in trouble. No, of course, there's bees and hornets. I think they're more or less avoidable. When I've hiked, say, Welch Dickey, there's this one notorious spot that yearly comes back, or most of us may know the Summit Cairn on Mount Eisenhower, murder hornets. I'm calling them that. They're not those damn things, but they're huge and they're crazy. So you just have to watch out for certain locations, and generally people know where they are, or you're going to find out really quick. The more concerning thing is if you step on a nest in the ground, and I think that will happen more if you're bushwhacking. And Daniel Maple, who is one of my fondest hikers, I love hiking with her. She's fantastic. We did the Captain once, and she stepped on a ground nest, and they chased her for 50 yards, man. It was just the craziest thing.
She gets stung?
A couple times, yep. And thankfully she wasn't allergic, which is something we'll talk about. How do you prevent, bites, the responses to certain bites. But dude, think of this. We're going uphill towards the Captain. It's one of the steepest, densest regions in the
You're in the middle of nowhere. You're like, there's nothing around anywhere.
Absolutely nothing. And she triggers a nest, and she's running uphill over, timber and blowdowns and everything else. And it was just a bad scene for several minutes there. But and all of us, the rest of us were just looking on helplessly, like, what the hell can we do? Nothing, pretty much. So she's a trooper, though. She did fine. And so it's a possibility if you're bushwhacking. Ever since that time, I always watch my footing like it left a stain, like PTSD stain on my mind when that happened. Like, oh boy, I do not like bees and hornets. Oof.
Yeah, we actually had that happen to us with the kids. So I was at the camp up in Maine. We have it's like we're on a pond. It's not a big pond. It's probably like a mile and a half around the pond.
Yeah.
And the backside of the pond is the I forget the name of the it's a railroad. It's the Mountain Division Railroad.
10th Mountain.
So I think it's just called Mountain Division. I don't know. There's like they've converted it into a walking trail in Freiburg, but our section is like back. It's in Brownfield, so it's a little bit farther up. But anyway, so the backside, the kids walk on railroad tracks. So it's legitimately railroad tracks. And a lot of times the kids will look for like old railroad spikes and stuff like that because we'll pick them up.
Lots of spiders under those.
Everything, snakes, spiders, everything. But I had never really considered and I'd seen that movie like My Girl. And it's always like a joke like, oh yeah, like what's the odds of someone getting killed by like a bee stings or whatever. But we were walking, so I had my 3 daughters, and then I had my I call them nieces and nephews, but they're really like the kids' cousins. But there's like 6 or 7 kids with us, and just me. And we're walking on the Mountain Division Trail, and then one of the kids was up ahead, and sure enough, like I look at it, it was one of the cousins. And she's like screaming towards me. Like she's a little kid. She's probably like 8 or 9 years old. And she's like hysterically screaming.
Yeah.
And she had stepped on a ground nest.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like one of my kids, I think, starts running towards me and screaming. And then all of a sudden, all the kids start screaming. And I was way behind them. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And then that's when I went up there and then I got stung. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like it was like unbelievable how quickly you just step on a nest, you don't even realize it, and then they start swarming you.
Yeah. Oh, totally. It's crazy. They're vicious.
Yeah. So there's not much you can do about it. You just need to be aware that, like, if you see these bees start coming, you got to run as fast as you can, because I think the whole deal is like get the hell out of their territory as best you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I apologize. You said the word snake, and I did not consider snakes, and I do not know why, but what I will suggest people do is go to the Fish and Game website, and they have a list of all the snakes in the state and what you can expect. There's a couple. There's like a timber rattlesnake, eastern milk snake. I mean, there are snakes around, and I believe 1 or 2 of them are poisonous, but I did not prepare for that because I wanted to get to what you can do for chemical repellent and stuff like that. So it's sort of out of our scope. Let's see.
Awesome.
So moving on, chemical repellents. We all know DEET, D-E-E-T. I think, my impression is looking at the info out there that this is sort of old school now. I don't know, it's a neurotoxin, so the whole idea of spraying yourself continuously with this stuff is not very great. Consumer Reports did a safety study, and essentially they say it is safe for the most part, and I think most of the issues happen when there's like a gross exposure to the chemical. But essentially the neurotoxin will kill mosquitoes and whatever else. I think DEET is being replaced by some newer, less toxic substances, and one of them, which you may have heard about, is permethrin. Now, the thing with permethrin, it's really neat. Instead of doing like a daily spray for a trip, what you're doing is soaking your clothing with, you add this material to your wash, and your clothing will be protected for, say, 3 to 4 weeks. Some treatments actually last up to 7 weeks. There's this insect shield, for instance, which can last 7 weeks. So that's pretty cool. If you're like me and you never wash your clothes, you're looking at all summer, which is fantastic. Do you use this stuff? I'm joking about the clothes, okay? Maybe to a point.
Yeah. Every year I'm like, and I have this stuff in my shed, and it's probably no good now because it's gone through the whole winter, but every year I'm like, I'm going to treat my clothes. And I did do it one year, but I have a different system. I just avoid grass completely. I walk on rocks as much as I can.
Yeah, true.
And, I mean, you laugh, but like I literally, all I do is I focus on walking on rocks and jump from boulder to boulder when I can, and I feel like that's like been my system to avoid ticks.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk about that too briefly. Ticks love the grass and the open canopy. So if you get that combination, you're in trouble. I mean, just from bushwhacking, that's what I've noticed over the years. But nonetheless, permethrin is out there for you. Now, here's a new one, which I just discovered last season. It's called Picaridin. And I guess it has an effect like black pepper on insects. So typically lasts 8 to 14 hours. It's, I have a spray bottle of it, so I'll just spray it on heavy on my boots and my legs just to prevent ticks from getting on my body. And that stuff is apparently non-toxic from what I understand. So permethrin and picaridin. I can say that the picaridin worked pretty well last year. So who knows? And I know other people that have actually moved on from the permethrin to this new, repellent.
Awesome.
Yeah. Have you heard of that, picaridin?
Yeah, no, I've heard of it, and I've heard of some of these like natural like plant-based repellents. I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical. I mean, maybe I'm just old school, but I always feel like I if it's not like dangerous to your health, then like how much damage is it going to do to the bugs?
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, just a few others. There's in terms of like the homeopathic or the real natural stuff. You have lemon eucalyptus, which may last 6 hours. It's all natural, plant-based. There is this stuff called Repellent, but I believe that's a variation of permethrin or actually picaridin. I'm sorry. So let's see. Neem oil. I ran across this stuff. I wouldn't even bother with this stuff from what I read. It's a pesticide. You're going to find it in your food. I think it's the byproduct of the pesticides that they use in our foods and things like that. But they actually do sell it for anti-bugs and anti-everything else as a repellent. So we'll give a link for that. And then here we go. We're moving on to what? Do you have a comment on that?
I do.
Yeah, go for
it. I just want to warn people, if you're not comfortable with the chemical options for getting rid of bugs, you do need to be very careful. If you start mentioning like what are the natural options for bug repellent, you may find yourself attracting what we call the multi-level marketing Huns, who will try to suck you into a pyramid scheme with essential oils to save you from bugs. So you need to be very careful about that, because next thing you know, you'll be selling knives door to door and then also selling essential oils. And we don't want you to fall into that trap.
Yeah. Yeah, much like the non-chemical repellents that you can download onto your phone, Mike. Apparently, this is funny. So there are sonic repellents, which you can download as an app onto your cell phones, and the majority of the reviews have said that it's BS. So don't bother downloading the sound frequency that's going to keep the mosquitoes away. That's a waste of money. Unless somebody can show me some research, but I did not find any. Isn't that funny? There's a million of them too in the App Store.
Yeah, I don't. look, I think for me, at the end of the day, if you really want to worry about, spray yourself with DEET, treat your clothes with permethrin, and then for me, the best way for you to avoid bugs in the whites in May and June when it gets really bad is you go high. All right. Yeah. Once you get above what is it, 3,500 feet of elevation, 3,000 feet of elevation. Once you get above that, then the bugs all go away. Yeah. Except for those ones that float around the shit, but they don't care about you. They care about the poop on the trail. Right. Or the dead animals or whatever it is. But if you get above tree line, that's why the northern presidentials are perfect to hit, like from late May until like June. That's where I'm going, is above tree line, because I don't have to deal with the bugs when I get up there.
Yeah. Last on this list is Thermacell. They do make a product that apparently works pretty well. It's a handheld device that has a cartridge that releases butane, so the gas or the smell of that is noxious to the mosquitoes, so that will keep them away. So there you go, people. Some repellent ideas for this season coming up, which I think is going to be a bad one because it is wet and it is still snowing and it's going to be nasty. So, hey. Yeah. Now, how about clothing? So you can obviously wear the head nets for mosquitoes. Wide brim hats are cool. That'll keep some of the gnats and the flies away. This time of the year, long sleeves on your arms, long pants are handy to keep the bugs from biting you. And in particular, when it comes to the ticks, you want to tuck those pants in your socks and get the socks above your pants so that those ticks can roll up and walk onto your leg. And if you're wearing lighter fabrics, light colored fabrics, you're going to be able to see those bugs on your legs and be proactive and flick them off. Pretty cool ideas. Urban myth: do ticks only walk in one direction? I don't know, but maybe they do. I find them getting stuck under the zipper at my knee that removes the leg portion of my pants so I can wear shorts. Oh, yeah. Isn't that cool? So if that's true, that's another strategy as well. Just, any little fold is going to capture those things. So I don't know. Could be.
I've seen people using like two-sided tape on their pants as well, like on the lower portion of it. I've seen that. I don't know, like, if it's worth it, but I've seen that. I mean, I do use and this is not you don't have to worry about this in the spring, but in the fall or late summer when the deer flies come out, I do use sticky tape on a hat, and that's saved me in a couple of hikes because I hate those things.
Yeah. Mike, you talked a little bit about best times to go, so we'll skip over that. Just be aware, ticks love the grass and open canopy. Mosquitoes love heat, but I think if you're above tree line with the breeze, you're good to go. And post-hike tips, we're not doctors. We play them on TV, but we're not doctors. Do a tick check after your hike this time of the year. Even if you're doing something on trail, non-bushwhack, do yourself a favor and do a full body check and look for those little buggers. And we can post some ideas about how to get ticks off of you and stuff like that, but that's really not the focus here. So, if you end up with a bullseye, then you should seek medical attention because that's a classic sign of a tick bite and potentially Lyme disease. Then there's OTC medications like Afterbite that you can rub on your bites, and antihistamines, cortisone creams, aloe, calamine, things like that. So hope that's helpful, and good luck. I'll see you in late June when they all go away for the most part.
Hey, Stomp.
Yeah.
I got one other thing here. So again, I've got mine is very short again, walk on rocks to avoid ticks, go above tree line to avoid bugs. And then for me is the one other thing that you want to keep an eye out for is you got hiking friends, you got your hiking buddy. When you're in your group, talk to people and be like, try to identify the person that always says oh my God, I can't believe mosquitoes are so attracted to me.
Oh, that's
if you
right.
can there are certain people, and I don't know what it is, whether they don't wear deodorant or they eat an Italian sub the night before a hike, or I don't know what it is, but there's certain people that attract mosquitoes.
You could get in trouble.
And
with
if you can find one, I mean, if you can find one of those people, you need to go hiking with them and just sort of tell them, like, look, we'll go hiking together, but I need you to stay 20 feet behind me. Or you just say, like, look, you lead the way and I'll stay behind you by 20 feet. It's the same theory of like taking a slow hiker in a bear-infested hiking area.
You know what we should do? This is probably opening a can of worms for somebody, but his name is Andy Cannon. Sounds like the perfect research for Andy.
It is. You know what sucks, though, is I think I'm one of those people that attracts bugs. So, unfortunately. So, I mean, it's good for if you want to hike with somebody, like hike with me, because they'll all come to me.
But that's funny, because I've hiked with people, too, that have said, oh, they never bother me. Or somebody has said to me...
avoid those people. Yeah. Don't go near those people. Because they're not bothering them, they're bothering you.
Wow. That's like, see, there's so much research to be done in the hiking realm. It's funny.
I think I read that there is something to do with blood type around, like, if you have a certain blood type, I'm going to do some research and put that in the show notes. If you have a certain blood type, like mosquitoes are more apt to like be attracted to you, I think.
Yeah, interesting. Well, yeah, let's follow up on that, because it is curious. Some people seem immune. But anyhow.
Exactly.
All right. Cool.
All right. So on to recent search and rescue news. We got some stuff going on in the White Stomp. It's crazy right now.
Yeah, I think we're just at the cusp of the crazy explosion of activity.
Yeah, but we'll stay out of the Whites and we're going to go back to Florida. By the way, dude, that show last week, I was like brutal being stuck in the closet.
Oh, that was so much fun for Andy and I, though. Watching you sweaty and just diminishing over time.
Covered in sweat. I mean, there was so much going on that week. Like, I had the you're not gonna like this, but I had like a booster shot for COVID, so I was dying. Like it kicked my ass.
That's a new
angle. And then I was like covered in sweat. Yeah, so it was just crazy. But anyway, So first story we have here is in Florida. So a woman who vanished in an 11,000-acre wetlands preserve was found hours later stuck in the marsh after rescuers waded through thigh-deep mud and heavy vegetation. How did she not get eaten by like snakes or alligators?
Well, I'm wondering if we're like responsible for this with the Cheswick talk and your recent talk about Florida and stuff. Like, wow. Yeah, what are the details here? How did it happen?
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess April 22nd, she was in Estero Bay Aquatic Preserve, which is near Fort Myers, so she's not that far out of civilization.
Gotcha.
But apparently they located her. She was visiting the site with her husband when she went missing. So this tells me... Dude, if you're hiking with your wife, like this can never... The husband got tired and came out of the preserve. His wife wanted to keep walking a while longer.
Oh, boy.
And that's when she became lost. Like, dude,
that's bad. Yeah,
you cannot do that. Like, you failed your husband duties. You cannot let your wife get lost in a swamp in Florida. Like, that's just... Somebody needs to check to see when the last time if he just took out life insurance on this lady, like, that's an issue.
This is the
red flag.
Third shame of the show.
Yes, yeah, this is not good. But anyway, so she was... Yeah, thigh deep mud and heavy vegetation, and she was flown from the scene to a hospital. So that dude is not going to have a good time.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Not good at all.
Oh, well.
So
I'm glad she's okay.
Yep, she's okay. Florida sucks for hiking. Florida, can I tell you, like, Florida is a state that... I guess that, like, north of Orlando, there's stuff in the middle. Like, my parents live in this place called The Villages, which is like this huge... But for the most of Florida, at least on the East Coast where I go, like Treasure Coast, they call it, you're literally, like, everything is going on within 5 miles of the ocean. And then once you get past... First of all, like, all the rich people are inside the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
They call it the juice train because they just, like, pour all the oranges in this train. And then once you get past the juice train, it's like all this like run down houses and crazy stuff. But like once you get 5 miles inland, it's literally just like mangrove area, like and then open fields and stuff. It's just in swamps.
Yeah.
It's just a weird state.
Dude, I think this is worth digging into just a hair more. It's a multi-agency response. Thigh deep mud, you mentioned that. She was awake and alert. She was in the deepest, marshiest part. At one point, the deputies were in waist deep mud. Their boots were getting stuck in the sludge, and this is interesting. They got her out at 1:30 a.m. by helicopter. Holy moly! How does that happen? Wow, that's scary stuff, man.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I don't know. The husband was either like purposely trying to get her killed, or he must have been freaking out, like feeling so bad.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, what you got? Yeah. What you got beyond that? Anything else national?
Rangers rescue hiker with head injury from Adirondack mountaintop. So 57-year-old hiker from Sherrill sustained a head injury last week while summiting Rondax Mountain near Old Forge. Mm-hmm. So they had 7 Department of Environmental Conservation Forest Rangers responding to the scene along with emergency medical tech. And they lowered the injured man by rope down steep slopes to safety. Mercy Flight transported the man to a hospital. And this was one of several rescues by the Department of Environmental Conservation. So they said... This is another one on the afternoon of April 13th. They had 2 fishermen get lost in the state forest when their GPS took them down an abandoned road when they became stranded and unable to turn around. So 2 rangers had to go rescue them. They had another situation where a fire was caused by illegal debris, and
busy.
I guess the homeowner, this was a homeowner situation, so I guess it's not really hiking. So it just sounds like a lot of reports around different like fires and stuff like that going on. But the main story is this person, the 57-year-old hiker, getting pulled off the trail. But it's interesting. Like I feel like in the Adirondacks, like do they have volunteer set up like you guys, or is it more relying on rangers?
I'm not really sure, but I'm looking at the picture that they have there, and there's one ranger, and he's decked out in his uniform, and everybody else is like in cotton. I'm like, that's weird. I don't know. Yeah. I really don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, the next one is national story. So a hiker was found dead in mid-April on the trail that summits Mount Whitney in the eastern Sierra Nevada. Yeah. I think Mount Whitney is part of the PCT. This is the 4th death on this mountain in the last 12 months.
Jeez.
So,
looks hardcore.
So I guess the sheriff's office got a call on April 18th reporting a dead body just below a section of trail with 99 switchbacks. 99 switchbacks, that's crazy. But due to extreme winds and snowy conditions in the region, search and rescue teams were unable to rescue the body until April 23rd. When the weather finally cleared. So they knew for like 5 or 6 days. They had made a couple of attempts, but it just was too windy for a helicopter crew to successfully get anybody down there. But eventually, I guess they were able to get some rescue members to the location to recover the body. And they said that the sheriff's office said that the deaths most often occur on the mountain in spring or early summer due to falls on snow or ice when the hiker doesn't have or know how to use critical gear like crampons and an ice axe. So it's imperative that you be prepared, said the sheriff. So other than that, there's no additional details.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, boy, that's crazy. I was going to make a really bad joke, but I held back. Because there's something about 99 switchbacks that would do a number on somebody too. Oh,
seriously,
am I right?
By the way, we forgot to do the beer. We forgot to do beer tonight.
It's never too late.
I'm drinking before we go into the White Mountain Search and Rescue, I'm drinking a Santilli American IPA, which I think I drank like 2 shows ago, and it is a I don't know what the brewery is.
This might be the 4th shame of the episode. This is definitely a Guinness Book of World Records for shames.
Hold on. Night Shift Brewing. They need to do a better marketing job on their cans. What are you drinking? Some fancy wine?
I got a little Moat Mountain Bone Shaker, which is a lager and it's in support of local mountain biking trails. Fresh, yeah. So, yeah, a little moat going on there. And I thank my beautiful bride for setting me up with that a little earlier.
Thank you, Mrs. Stomp.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Stomp.
All right.
All right. So now we're going to go local here in New Hampshire. So this is, and I don't know if it's fair to call them hikers, but two hikers who vanished over Easter weekend have been found shot dead in the woods in what police are considering a double murder. So the bodies of Stephen Reed and Joshwende Reed were discovered on Thursday evening near their home in Concord, New Hampshire. Family members said they hadn't heard from the couple since Monday after they left their apartment in the Alton Woods apartment complex around 2:22 p.m. Yeah. They failed to turn up at a family event on Wednesday, so they started searching the trails, and then the investigators found both of their cars parked in their usual spots in the apartment complex. I guess they're avid outdoors people and are known to take frequent walks along the trails near their Concord residence. So this is outside of sort of our area of focus around hiking and stuff. Like Concord's pretty far south, but the Reeds, they had no history of domestic violence. You always think like, okay, is this a murder, suicide, husband and wife? Nothing like that. So the autopsies ruled that both deaths were homicides, and police are investigating. I've seen a couple of other articles about this. If I lived in that area right now, I would be nervous as hell to go outside. I don't know what the hell's going on down there.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've come across some conspiratorial articles, and what they do is they sort of focus on their occupations. Apparently this person was, the male was involved with almost like a diplomatic type of service, and she was a national from, I want to say Africa? But anyway, long story short, who knows? Yeah, it's like conspiracy stuff going on.
Oh no, Stomp went down a rabbit hole. Look out. I'm going straight to Reddit after this now.
I couldn't help it. I was like, "Ooh, that's an interesting twist." Like, ooh.
It's such a peculiar, it's very odd. And I do know, I thought I read another article that said that they were doing like a grid search on this. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but I would assume that they're going to have to do this. Is going to get a lot of investigative eyes on it because this is very unusual. I can't think of a scenario recently where this has happened. Either they ran into somebody that was up to no good or something else is going on. But this will be very interesting to watch.
Yeah. We will keep you posted.
All right. Keep me posted. I'm going to Reddit after the show, so let's get done with this. All right. Injured hiker is carried down Carter Mariah Trail. So this was on. So we've got a bunch of these that popped up now. There's 4 search and rescue events that happened over the weekend. So this is I think this is just sort of the situation where people are anxious to get out, and they're either having bad luck on the trails or they're not prepared for a little bit of ice that's going on here, Stomp. Mm-hmm. But on Saturday, the 23rd, around 10:30 a.m., Fish and Game were notified of an injured hiker on Carter Mariah Trail. The hiker is a 56-year-old from Plymouth, New Hampshire. She was attempting to summit Mariah with her hiking companion when she took a step to avoid ice on a rock ledge on the trail about 2.7 miles from the trailhead. And she heard I guess she was doing this maneuver, and she heard an audible snap.
Ooh.
And she felt an immediate pain in her lower leg. Her hiking companion came to her aid, and they decided pretty quickly to call 911, which initiated a rescue response. So they had 6 volunteers from AVSAR, the Androscoggin Valley Search and Rescue Team, that joined with Fish and Game officers. So I guess prior to the rescue personnel arriving on the scene, the hiker was assisted by some other hikers to make her more comfortable. I'm guessing on a Saturday on that trail, there's probably pretty good traffic, so they might have picked up a couple of assistance, some assistance from other hikers. Yeah. But she was carried by 5 COs and 6 volunteers over a mile, where they were eventually able to get an ATV out there to load her in and transfer her to the trailhead, and then she was off to the hospital.
Good. Yeah. Interesting arithmetic there, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And big shout out to this hiker. She got so if I never want to be on this, but if I ever am, what they gave her on the press release is the hiker is an experienced hiker who was prepared for spring hiking conditions in the White Mountains and had purchased a hike safe card. So our boy George, just a heads up, we've got a hike safe card and we've got a rescue.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So there you go, George. Good for you. So the next one is, sorry. Hold on. I got to get to actually, I'll prepare when I'm doing this. And, before I get into that, I got 3 more rescues. There was helicopter training on Mount Washington Stomp.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that. I had people sending me texts like, hey, what's up with the 2 Blackhawks and this and that? I'm like, I don't know. Probably training.
Yeah. It's exactly what they were doing. They did a touch and go, I think, on the peak of Mount Washington.
Wow, super cool. I had that experience actually when I was doing, what is it, the Middle Sisters over at Chicora? Is that the name of those peaks?
Yeah.
Okay, I was making my way over there, and they did a touch and go, as you call it. And I don't think they saw me. I was like within like 30 feet hiding behind a bush, and they were just like doing their thing. Really neat.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really cool.
That's cool. All right, so 3 more here to go. So this is a busy weekend.
Yeah.
So on April 24th, which I think was Sunday, around 6:50 p.m., Fish and Game notified by a Department of Natural and Cultural Resources Mountain Patrol Ranger, I don't know what that is, about an injured hiker who was also experiencing a medical issue on the White Cross Trail on Monadnock. So the victim was a 20-year-old from Nashua, New Hampshire. She was hiking with her friends when she suffered a fall and was in need of assistance. I'm guessing Monadnock's pretty dry right now, but maybe not. Yeah, but park staff, conservation officers from Fish and Game, and members of the Upper Valley Wilderness Response Team and Jaffrey Fire Department responded to the White Cross Trail halfway between the upper junction and the lower junction, so pretty far up. After receiving medical attention, food, and water, the hiker was placed in a litter and was carried down the trail to the trailhead at Monadnock. So call came in at 6:50. They got her to the trailhead by 9:45. And she was off to the hospital. So
wow.
She, I guess she got pretty lucky there. But it's a pretty far distance, and that trail is it's steep up where she was. It's not easy to probably get her down from there. It gets easier, but it's a bit of a haul for the rescuers. But Monadnock's not a bad place to get a rescue because there's a lot of people around.
Sure. Yeah, and
I'm encouraging it.
Thank you to AVSAR and Upper Valley for giving your time. Remember, these teams are all volunteer.
Yeah, they're good stuff. So here's one that is it Pisca State Park?
Pisca, I guess.
Pisca? I'm going to get hammered for this pronunciation. But anyway,
is it Apanaki?
Yeah, I don't know. Unprepared hikers rescued in Pisca State Park in Winchester. So around 9:45, Fish and Game was notified by Cheshire County dispatch of a pair of hikers in distress. So they called 911. 1% battery life left on their phone. No warm clothes, no map.
That's rough.
Lights, water, or food. So they had 1% on the battery, no warm clothes, no map, no light, no water, no food. Other than that, they were well prepared.
That's a rough one. That's a scary situation. Because it's cold out.
Well, listen to this. So they were, with the 1% battery, they were able to establish from the 911 call that was made by the hikers the position of the hikers. Sure. So they were located approximately like 2 miles from the Kilburn Trailhead located in Chesterfield Road in Hinsdale.
Wow.
So they were lucky, but the call came in at 9:45. Fish and Game was able to negotiate the location of the distressed hikers, and the hikers were located around midnight, cold, in need of an evacuation, slightly off the Kilburn Loop Trail in Winchester, brought back to their vehicles at the trailhead by 1 a.m. And young hikers from New York. So out of town. I don't know if it was a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, but it looks like it may have been. Both were self-admittedly wholly unprepared for the hike. One of the hikers was also cited for illegal possession of a controlled drug.
Yeah.
So
that's unfortunate.
Not a good night.
Yeah. Yep. There's plenty of that out there. That's unfortunate. Well, it's a lesson learned. A big one.
Lesson learned. A little bit of a foul, a little bit of harm, but not too much.
Yeah. So. Oh, man. Okay.
Good. And then next one here, and this is the last one. Hiker rescued on the Crawford Ridgepole Trail. Is that the Ridgepole? That's what Ty was talking about? That's what we hiked, right?
Yeah. What portion of it, I wonder? Because it's lengthy.
Yeah, I'll see here. So on Monday, April 25th, around 4 p.m., Fish and Game officers responded to a call for assistance on the Crawford Ridgepole hiking trail in Sandwich. A female subject was unable to continue walking due to a medical condition. So 51-year-old from New York and her husband were hiking Mount Percival in Holderness. After reaching the summit area, they were directed by another hiker to take the Crawford Ridgepole Trail. So Percival, and then I'm assuming they must have went right. I don't know. It sounds like they went away from Morgan and to the Sandwich Notch area.
Wow.
So
great advice.
They continued along the trail for 2 miles when the female hiker began suffering from a medical condition and realized she'd not be able to continue. Conservation officers responded and determined that the fastest way to her location was the Doublehead Trail in Sandwich. So they must have, where we started, they must have came up that way.
That's amazing.
So they located her at approximately 6 p.m. What time did the call start? So 4 p.m. They located her by 6, so it was only 2 hours. She was given medical aid and assistance and was able to complete the hike on her own. So she arrived at the Doublehead Trailhead parking area around 8:30 and was transported back to her vehicle. So all good.
Incredible. That's a great trail, though. We got to get back there and take that chip off our shoulders.
Take the whole, you want to do the whole traverse, right?
Yeah, get Cotton and Willard and just call it a day. Got to blast it out.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that for
so
sure.
Much fun.
And I will tell you, this hike on Adams, I am definitely... I always pride myself of I'm a super strong hiker and I can go uphill and I'm fat. I was hiking with this person that's gritting and she was just way stronger than I was, and I was just I'm getting old. I can't hang with her. So
doesn't that suck? Oh my God,
it sucked.
Yep.
And I took my my heavier pack. I took snowshoes because I had the snowshoes and I'm kicking myself, but the Randolph Mountain Club put an update out, and they were the day before I was going hiking, and they were there's still snow up here and you should take snowshoes. And they put a picture on the trail of probably a foot of snow. So I was shit, I better take them just in case, but I didn't need them. So I was carrying a little bit of a heavier pack. I should have taken my day pack, but I took the bigger winter pack.
Yeah. We're doing a training tomorrow, a shoulder season training, just a simulated rescue at Artist Bluff, and Artist Bluff is just my speed right now.
Yes. Yeah. Are you losing weight though? You actually look like you've lost some weight.
I've been working a lot more, just getting out and whatever else. And my wife and I have been trying to do the daily hike. So thanks, man. Except for the stains on my t-shirt, I'm looking all right.
Yeah, you're looking like Archie Bunker there with those stains. So.
So this is a wrap, right?
This is a wrap, dude. 1 hour and 40, a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. But anyway, we'll see you next week.
Adios.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at slasherpodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words that describe this race. Do we all know what they are?
Only one hill! Here's Lieutenant James Nealon of New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.